On this week's episode, we react to G-Day, we talk dogs in the draft, a little bit of NBA playoffs, and the red-hot Atlanta Braves. As always, I'm Cheeto, and with me is my co-host Keegan, and welcome back to another episode of Dogs Off the Leash. Keegan, to wrap up G-Day, the red team wins 27-17. There are takes flying all over the internet about post-spring game for UGA, the offense, the defense, the highlights, the lowlights. So let's hop right into it. What did you love? Who did you love coming out of G-Day as we finish the spring and the dogs start their trek into the summer and start preparations for fall camp?
You know, I'm disappointed because I had big money on black, and they really let me down, Cheeto. So I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling it in my pockets. And if you're on that black team, it's just frustration over here for me.
Yeah, so I think from what I remember, it is first team offense is the red. So you got Gunnar Stockton. We saw some changes on the offensive line. We've been talking a lot about Zakai Helton, a lot of that buzz. Bobo is out. So we were wondering what the offensive line is going to look like. But it ended up being Dontrell Glover, if I'm not mistaken, at the left guard position, and Zakai Helton being at the right guard position, Ernest Green at left tackle, Gadsden on the right-hand side. So we have some answers. We don't know if that is going to stick, but I felt like overall, I really like what I'm seeing from this offensive line. I feel like the coaches have done a good job of putting the best players, especially AKA Zakai, who have done the best this spring in a position to excel. Now, outside of his little run-in with Elijah Griffin on the defensive line, who also had a good day, he got ragdolled one time. I think Zakai is going to be one of those special players. That's been the buzz, and Saturday, it showed his colors.
Is it Zakai or Zaki?
It's Zakai Helton. It's spelled Z-Y-K-I-E,
okay.
But he has come out with the pronunciation that it's Zakai.
The pronunciation has dropped.
Yeah, like, we legit now.
Like, you know how they have commitment announcements? Sometimes they honestly could do a set of pronunciation announcements. Just
yeah, it's one of
those. Just so we don't look silly. Or even worse, like it'll be like the last day they're leaving to the NFL. They're like, actually, you say my name this way, and you're like, oh, like there's 4 years of me basically insulting you, low key. But that said, Cheeto, I feel like G-Day this year was a celebration of talent. Golly, there's so many new freshmen that look good. Any room you want to name, it looks pretty deep. The thing I think that was talked about the least, or that I'm hearing the least, is actually the guys that are coming back, how there's been visible improvement there. And you can start off with Gunnar Stockton, who had a few plays where accuracy was in high demand and it was there, and he was delivering in a tight window. And then other times where he stayed in the pocket, actually moved up, kind of climbed the pocket, as they say, made a good throw down the field. So Gunnar Stockton is improving. Chauncey Bowens is improving. And I'll be the first to want to talk about the new faces and like the shiny new toy, the freshman that just came through that we're all hype about. By all means, and we will. I would say that this team has been working. And for every bit of credit, the preseason people want to give Georgia for returning production. And that's something that we're kind of like setting the floor pretty high to begin with. I think a scary thought that people aren't considering that I think we need to focus more in on, and hopefully it becomes an ongoing part of this conversation, is the improvement of guys returning. So not only is there a high bar and you got back-to-back SEC championship dudes coming back, they're getting better. So that is something you got to love. But Cheeto, who did you see that just kind of popped off the page and was like a shining new star, or just what were you seeing out there on old G-Day?
Yeah, a couple of things. And again, the reports are rampant, but we talked about a lot of players that we wanted to see going into G-Day, and several of those players lived up to expectations. Now, Dante Dowdell, I'm going to let you have that because you called it. What I want to say about him, though, is you made a pretty bold comparison, right? You said he kind of gave you kind of flakes of like Todd Gurley. I didn't realize he was that big of a running back. His frame actually looks a lot like Todd Gurley. And then the vision and the hurdle, like I didn't realize a player like that because he transferred from Kentucky. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, and he's been everywhere.
He's been everywhere, but yeah.
Oregon, Nebraska, and then Kentucky. But if you're an Oregon recruit, you already know you're one of the legit players of the country. These Nike dudes do not play around. And he started when he was at Oregon. So the thing I was kind of wrestling with when I was looking at his tape, Cheeto, is like, why is this guy not a bigger deal? And why are we not making a bigger deal about him? And why does he keep transferring? There's no like instant reports of character issues or anything like that. There have been injuries. So in the case of Oregon, he got banged up. Dude comes in, does really well. He kind of takes a back seat. A similar thing sort of happens in Nebraska where he just doesn't end up being the main guy, does decently well. And then in Kentucky, same thing again. So I think Dante Dowdell has just gotten better each year, and that Georgia just may be the spot where he's due to shine the most, because even at Georgia, sometimes it's not until your senior year that you really make the biggest impact, that legacy-defining, highlight reel fueled kind of Georgia career that everybody dreams about. So you take a quick look at his tape, Cheeto, it's undeniable. He's got the quick moves, he's got the physical moves, he can block, he can catch, he can really do it all. The thing that stands out, the intangible that stands out about Dante Dowdell, which I think will make the biggest difference, because the running back room is stacked with athletic traits. Like, there's no shortage there, and I'm really fond of all the dudes in the running back room. But the thing I think Dante Dowdell brings that is an elite trait, the running back room as of now hasn't shown me at that clip, is his vision. And that is the thing I think actually separates Todd Gurley, that probably doesn't get enough credit, because he's got big frame, lots of size, and he's moving with track speed. So that's the instant thing you want to give credit to, and that's a big factor, don't get me wrong, but the vision, that's something Dante Dowdell has had at an elite level. And if you just look at his stats real quickly, at a quick glance, you'll notice he really hasn't had a lot of usage. So maybe the biggest problem with Dante Dowdell is people aren't giving him the ball enough, because every time they do, he seems to do really well. And like, I'm here to hype up guys before the spring game, so I leaned into it. But Dante Dowdell had like 3 clippable type of runs just from the spring game. So if nothing else, the floor is much higher in this running back room, and getting a guy like Dante Dowdell at bare minimum replaces a little bit of that short yardage package we lose with Josh McCray. But at best, and I think potentially likely, he's someone that can break open the field, use his vision to get an extra 10, 20 yards, and kind of be an answer for the explosive runs we were lacking the last few years.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When you made that Todd Gurley comparison, I looked at you a little sideways, because I take my running back really serious, as you know, on this podcast. But Dowdell, I was unfamiliar with the game. Apologies, right? I don't know, for whatever reason, coming from Kentucky, when I heard the name, and this is an NFL running back, so I know it's stupid, but when I heard the name, I was thinking Rico Dowdell, right? The smaller kind of scat back type of thing. I did not realize this dude was that big with that type of vision. So glad to have him all aboard at UGA, because this running back room, I think, goes to another level if you have talent like that with all of the players that we already have on board, and not even to mention Bo and Jay Lamar. That room is going to be a problem. Another room that's also going to be a problem is the tight end room. We talked about that one at length before G-Day, and right on cue, Jaden Riddell shows why he is getting some, not a lot, but some Brock Bowers comparisons. When you see a tight end running a jet sweep or an end around type of play with a chance to show his athleticism and his speed, just know that we used a special player like Brock Bowers in that same vein, right? He has the red zone touchdown. We haven't even got to see his 50-50 ball skills yet, but we mentioned that on the podcast. I was really excited to see Jaden Riddell really get an opportunity to shine. That is just one of many tight ends. We saw Caden Prothro used in the slot. I don't know if that is a shadow of things to come, but if Bobo gets creative with how he uses these tight ends, whether it's as a wide receiver, in the slot or out wide, inline blocking, a hybrid guy, it is going to be a problem. And that is probably one of the things that excites me the most about this offense, is the versatility of the weapons that we have. But we still need to be explosive, but if there's one thing you can't blame Bobo for, is his efficiency, especially when it comes in the red zone. And he has a lot of red zone weapons to use in 2026.
Yeah, and that's something actually Bobo was asked about, and he said that they've been giving Caden Prothro more looks at wide receiver than tight end even. And that's the way they can get him on the field and guarantee that he does get looks. I'll say this, the defense just looks completely stout. The transfers we're bringing in on defense, a guy like Braylon Conley immediately has made a couple of impact plays in the G-Day spring game, and that's someone that I looked at his film. It was tough, but what I liked about him was what his coaches were saying about him, how he responded to questions in the interview. The clip I actually put up was of him just responding to a question. I was like, this sounds exactly like something Kirby would script, and he's just saying it. I think he's got that kind of like locker room DNA we're looking for, and he made a couple of plays during G-Day. So the secondary depth is probably, if there is a question mark, it's not that we don't have like athletic dudes. It's just that do we have guys that are going to be in position and have the awareness, because it's to be a position that gets so lauded for the speed and the athleticism, it really is a lot of mental, situational awareness that is required to play the position well. So he was in position. So that's cool. And the defensive line looked really good. I know Lonan, the young freshman, made a play. Preston Carey made some plays. I thought that Josh Horton, the transfer from Miami, who we already kind of know about, got better. He's looking bigger, stronger than ever. And I know the announcers kept on talking about this dude because he was just being disruptive on the line. And I know disruption's a word that Kirby's used verbatim. And that's, I guess his last name's Littlejohn. Cheetah, do you know who that is?
Littlejohn, I want to say he's a linebacker, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it might be. Well, either way, he was breaking up a couple of blocks, pushing guys back into the running backs. And overall, for the red team, they kind of overcame some adversity in the spring game because the defense was lighting it up. They weren't making it easy for them, but basically the black team could do nothing on offense. So the red team just kept getting their chances, which I think actually bodes well for Georgia this year, because if we can just keep teams at bay, even if we're not as explosive or as efficient as we'd like to be at times, our defense can bail us out. So that's pretty cool, man. But yeah, the wide receiver room was like the biggest question mark, and I thought we had a lot of depth there.
I think it's important to note that due to injury, we had a lot of wide receiver options that were out. So it was really nice to see what the depth looks like in the room. And you've made the point and talked about how the tight ends can be used in that capacity as well, since we're losing a lot of talent to the NFL draft. So something that's encouraging, I think, is we got weapons on this team, right? There is no doubt about that. From the tight ends that we have, Sokovi's going to be back, London Humphreys, Isaiah Canyon coming in, whether it's CJ Wiley or Talon Taylor, there are talented pieces here, right? So now it's going to be incumbent or the responsibility of Mike Bobo to use these weapons effectively. Again, super efficient, but can we get a little bit more explosivity in the pass game, right? And an article that's going around right now is a report from Bill Connolly talking about how he didn't like the Georgia offense last year, and he thinks that the Georgia offense could even take a step back in the passing offense this year. And you know me, I tend to agree with him a lot. But I will say the one thing G-Day did give me was a little bit of confidence in the weapons that we have. I worry about the offensive coordinator's play calling at times. But Keegan, I know you wanted to kind of do the good cop, bad cop on this. I think I'm pretty firm in where I stand. How are you feeling after what you saw on G-Day? Do you feel a little bit more confident than you were going in, or were you optimistic from the jump?
I was optimistic from the jump, but I just think I do that for my own mental health. But I think I'm now affirmed in my optimism because I think there's a way that this all shakes out and we can kind of break it down. So I'll just ask you, so who and what are we losing from this year that sticks out the most, like going to the league? Like, what's the biggest?
So Colby Young was one of your big body senior leaders of the room, transfer in. Dylan Bell is definitely going to be more of that hybrid running back wide receiver that we lost. Dylan Bell gives you like that Debo Samuel type of energy, that hybrid running back slot wide receiver type of thing. And then I've been on record saying that Noah Thomas, with that big body and that speed and good hands, I think he was probably the most underused wide receiver of the bunch. I think he's going to have a chance to get drafted. Not everybody agrees with me. And then Oscar Delp, just a really solid do-it-all tight end. And that experience and their volume in our offense is what leads me to think that we're going to take a step back. whether it's Talon Taylor or CJ Wiley, I think they're probably more a year away from having that type of breakout season. I'd love for it to start yesterday, but we're going to have to see how that goes. And that's going to be dependent on what the offensive coordinator does with the weapons that he has. So that's when I say take a step back, I think those players leaving, I don't think we're going to be better because they're leaving. I don't think the guys behind them are better than them outside of the tight end room. The tight end room going up. I mean, way, way up. And I think CJ and Talon could be better in the long run. I just don't know if that's 2026.
To me, the player that we're going to have the hardest time replacing, oddly enough, is Dylan Bell, because he's just such a unicorn in the different types of things he does, because he was a good blocker, he was good down the field, and he was good in the quick intermediate kind of extension of the run game. So he could really do all of those things. So,
and then obviously Zachariah Branch. I'm sorry, I even almost forgot him, but he was vital to our offense. But again, he was explosive in his role. Maybe it's just because it's not sexy.
Answer. I mean,
he's the obvious answer. Yeah, but we didn't use him as our explosive down the field threat, right? He was our screen guy. He was our short yardage, get it out of your hand real quick type of relief pressure guy. So no disrespect, can't forget him, obviously. But that's what I mean when we're losing weapons vertically, at least.
Well, I'm just setting it up so we kind of have laid out exactly what we're going to lose if I'm going to make the case that potentially we could fill in some of these gaps specifically, not just say, oh, we got dudes. Yeah, we got dudes every year.
We got dudes every year. Yeah, that's never the issue.
That don't mean anything.
Exactly.
They're going to put some names on the roster. They're going to hand out a program.
There's going to be some new, household names this year. That's not a problem at Georgia, which kind of lends to my frustration, right? Outside of the year that we had all those drops, right? And Ladd McConkey and Brock were injured. That's fair. I'll roll with the people that are like, that's why. That was an awful year. But we have too much talent at the University of Georgia now. I've been seeing a lot of these polls on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it. I call it Twitter. Most linebackers drafted since whatever year. Most wide receivers drafted since whatever year. Most offensive linemen. Most whatever you want. Georgia's on the top 2, sometimes top 3 on that list all the time. So I'm just saying we need to be back in that championship picture sooner than later, because when you look at what we're putting out on a regular basis, it's really hard to keep coming up with excuses. And you watch a G-Day, it's really hard to keep coming up with excuses why we're not consistently doing things that Texas offense does to everybody outside of us. Ohio State does to everybody. What Lane Kiffin at LSU is going to do. You know what I'm saying? It's just that type of vibe. It's just I feel like we could be better. That's all.
So, yes, we can be better, but at the same time, I think we need to acknowledge we're playing a style of football that goes pretty much hand in hand with having a quarterback that's not necessarily elite at passing, right? We can talk about Todd Monken offenses, but you have to acknowledge that Stetson Bennett at the end was he played on a 5-star plus level on the field. And even that year before, he still is probably a step above where Gunner's at last year for sure. So it's if we had Stetson Bennett this last year, I'm pretty sure we'd pass it more down the field. And just the way he was with his vision, it was a little bit more developed. He was older. So it's not apples and oranges. He had time and all these reps to get to that place, but alas, he still was a better passer. So I think
for sure. And to that, if I may, real quick, if that's where we're going to hang our hat, and that's a fair argument to make, then we got to go back and say, who handpicked Gunner Stockton to be in this position? I think Gunner's a great quarterback. I've never made the case otherwise. I really do. But if we're going to say he is limited, Bobo went and chose him, right? And has been teaching him how to play the position and developing him just like every other position on the field gets developed, right? And then you can say, well, if that's the case and we lose a player like Jared Curtis to Vanderbilt, again, regardless, and it may not be today and it may not be 2 years or 5 years, but eventually this is going to start to creep into the team of where are we lacking? And eventually we're going to have to make changes. I think this year is a great year to kind of break through that narrative, which is true at this point, but these things change in programs really quick, man. They change really quick. If you don't win,
what narrative's true at this point?
That the University of Georgia could do better at offensive coordinator and should be winning at an even higher level And we've been really winning a lot, but we should be doing a little bit better.
I think this roster is undeniable, Cheeto. So it's like, if we don't do better this year, then yeah, it's like it's time to really question somebody. Because I'm with you. I think we did underutilize like Noah Thomas, you mentioned. So like, yeah, I don't think we quite got what we could have out of him. But I saw Gunnar Stockton play great, and he's a tough quarterback, and I really fuck with Gunnar Stockton. He's my boy, but at the same time, there was times where he just left it on the field and did not see dudes down the field he needed to.
Yeah, sometimes he didn't even throw it. I'd love to see him throw it more so we can make an accurate or have an accurate picture of can he throw the deep ball. I think a lot of that was the issue. Bobo would scheme a open pass, but again, if he's not throwing it, who's teaching him that? It's got to land somewhere. So, as the season goes, I think we're going to have a great regular season. For us, it's SEC championship and playoffs. That's what we're going to be judged by at this point, right? I think we're going to go 11-1 regular season, but none of that's going to matter. It matters, but like for us, you know what I mean? Like we're talking beyond that right now. That's just where the program's at. So, but Keegan, we got plenty of time to go through that this season. I'd love to let you kind of go through your MVPs or shout out anybody else you want to get to as far as the spring. I'm kind of getting antsy to talk about some NFL drafts. So do your thing.
Let's put a bow on this like wide receiver room talk real quick. Between Jeremy Flight Bell, who really showed out in this spring game, showed out in the last spring game too, has been a name that keeps popping up. Keep hearing about him. But between Jeremy Flight Bell, Zacoby White, I think 80 to 90% of what Zachariah Branch was doing production-wise between those two dudes is not like a stretch of the imagination. So there's that. Now down the field, Noah Thomas guy with his usage, it's not going to be that hard, honestly, to meet what he was for this team in a production sense. I think he was maybe a more vocal locker room dude than we realized. He was a better blocker than we realized. We probably underutilized him, but still, Talon Taylor looked nice. He was looking nice just timing his routes, being aware, putting his hands up when he needed to. And then honestly, as a kick returner, he looked like a weapon. Like he's got some burst to him, Cheeto. So I like Talon Taylor there. And then as far as the big body guy, Colby Young was just a beast, but like he was hurt. Shit. A good bit of the season, got in shenanigans, had to get his name cleared the year before. So we never really got to see the best of Colby Young. If Caden Prothro is going to be a receiver, I think that can answer that. So, hey, it's not exactly a guarantee, but there's a lot there in that wide receiver room where you can say Gunnar Stockton is going to have plenty of guys to throw to in 2026. And I think it all comes down to situational roles. So how do you ebb and flow with these dudes? You need a downfield pass. Maybe you go to Elias or Lawson Lucky. You need something underneath with like some break tackle. You go to Jaden Riddell. You need a 50-50 ball. You throw it to Caden Prothro. So I think having the situational awareness is how Mike Bobo is going to scheme. It's players, not plays necessarily. So we got to figure out how to be situationally aware and get the best out of this roster. As far as some MVPs, man, I think Hezekiah Millender really stepped up and showed us that he's developed a good bit. He showed most of all poise in the pocket, the ability to sling it down the field. And if you go back and look at his high school tape, dude, he was throwing 45, 50 yards off his back foot like sloppily and just chucking it. So he's got the kind of athletic potential that really he really stands out athletically. And you hear Kirby talk about what he loves about Gunnar Stockton. He's like, Gunnar's the clear number one right now because he knows where to go with the ball. When the play breaks down, he's the clear number one because he's got the most improv abilities out of the room also, and just experience with those situations. If that is why Gunnar is the clear number one, well, we saw lots of dudes throw the ball. I thought Bryson Beaver really stepped up, did a good job. Ryan Montgomery shows why he's been probably the most consistent of the bunch. And then Puglisi, he's got the best flashes, probably the best on 7-on-7 dude, but he's not necessarily showing the level of consistency. I think it was Montgomery that had one of the interceptions. But either way, Puglisi has been a little bit hot and cold. So to have Hezekiah Millender throw his name into the hat, show that, hey, I'm getting better with my poise. You guys know that I'm probably the most athletic of the bunch, has a pretty dirty high school tape of just juking dudes out of their shoes. Yeah, I want to pat myself on the back a little bit because I was like hoping Hezekiah would have a good spring game. I was trying to like flood the timeline with those NCAA highlights of him doing things. But after the fact, him doing well, the thing I think that is getting talked about the least, Cheeto, is the fact that he was actually commanding the huddle in a way that I've almost seen the team respond to Gunnar Stockton. So if you want a reason for Hezekiah Millender to potentially be your 2, it's not necessarily the poise, which is great. It's not necessarily the athleticism, which is there. It's his command of his team. He definitely delivered. He made the QB2 position a true battle. So something to keep an eye out on going into 2026, because the way Gunnar plays, shit, it's not a stretch to think he might get banged up.
Yeah, and on that note, we don't see all the practices leading up to spring, and one day is not going to make or break you. The competition for the number 2 spot will continue into the fall, but I would say with a simple stock up and stock down type of thing, Hezekiah Millender did himself a lot of favors. Stock up for him. Puglisi flashes, yeah, I still think he's one of the more talented guys in the room, but inconsistency is something that you don't want to see as a quarterback, and Kirby Smart doesn't want to see as a quarterback. So I'm going stock down for Puglisi. Montgomery, I feel like stock up a little bit. You mentioned, I think he did have one of those interceptions, but I feel like coming off of an injury, it was good to see him out there and to do a lot of the things that he did. I believe he also had a touchdown. You have to make sure on that, Keegs, but I feel like he had a red zone strike. Maybe the play was blown dead on a sack officially, but I know he did a lot of good things.
I think you're right, yeah.
And then Beaver's been a nice addition. So I do like the tools that we have here. So trying to project it forward as it stands right now, and we've lost quarterback commits before, very recently. We have Jaden Wade committed, I think, for 2028. So to have potentially a Hezekiah Millender come in, because this is Gunnar's last year, I believe. So we're going to need somebody to really take the reins on a number 2 position this year as we transition to certainty at the future at the quarterback position. So really love that. And then on the defense, I also wanted to shout out to Tyreek Green. I do not know exactly where he's going to end up playing, whether it's star or safety or corner or wherever this team needs. This guy out of Buford. And you can see why some of Georgia fans are really upset that we used to miss out on Buford players all the time. Them boys are a problem. Yeah. And Tyreek Green is going to be a problem. I'm not going to call him MVP, but again, stock way, way, way up. This guy is going to be a player in the secondary for the University of Georgia for a long time. Maybe not that long, low key. Maybe not that long. But the kid's going to be special, and he flashed. He just got that instinct that you cannot teach, really. And Hezekiah Millender, kind of the similar thing. You just saw some of that it stuff, right? Just play in the position in a way that's just kind of natural, right? Instead of thinking too much, just kind of being, right? For lack of a really good term. But those two I really, really liked as maybe some like unobvious MVPs of G-Day. Really liked it.
Yeah, something that's interesting to me is like when you hear these recruits be talked about, a lot of times their coaches or their teammates they'll hone in on something specifically. And when someone's just really good, they'll say, "Oh man, they're really good," or "They're working really hard." They kind of give a generic answer. It's like it's nothing bad, but it's just kind of like.
I love when you hear that, and maybe this is the best way to put it. When coaches and scouts, they just call somebody a football player, just a ball player, right? That's almost like the best way to quantify an unquantifiable quality in a player. It's like I can't explain it. It's like they were born with the ball in their hand, right? Like they were born reading coverages or blitzing off the edge. It's just this, intuitive thing that they have. And a lot of the best players to ever play, they just have this kind of uncanny ability just to feel the game more than other people. And then you have the physical tools and the special abilities that go on top of that. So that's one of my favorites, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that on this team, and I think Georgia has sneakily gotten better and better about getting more culture-oriented dudes in the locker room. That is a big part of the secret sauce here. But yeah, Hezekiah Millender, you go look up all these tapes about him. When people are talking about him, I think that's one of the things that stood out the most to me was just that he is just like, he's humble, he's a leader, he works hard, he's constantly pushing it. Just anything you want to hear. Let me put it this way, Cheeto. if I showed you a clip of just dudes talking about a guy and you didn't know who they were talking about, and I told you they were talking about Gunnar Stockton, it would have all made sense. So you could have basically replaced Gunnar Stockton's name with his high school video I saw of them talking about Hezekiah Millender. And just very similar thing, like soft-spoken, leads on the field. And the way he took command of the offense was the thing to me that really stuck out, that I thought was even more impressive in a way, because he's a little bit younger, right? You know, you'd think Puglisi or Montgomery maybe would be in there leading in that fashion, but that was the thing that actually stuck out to me the most. Yeah, and I think my defensive MVP would have to be Chase Linton, just for being an athletic freak. He kind of reminds me of Leonard Floyd, the way he flies around out there, and he's got that big, lanky frame. So he had a knockdown on a rollout pass where he just swatted the ball down, knocked it straight out of the air. So that was a thing of beauty. So yeah, Chase Linton is someone that if you count on Chris Cole getting better, you think Q Johnson is going to get better. And by the way, I think everybody who changed their number, Cheeto, just got like an automatic boost. I'm pretty sure when you go from 33 to 3, you get a little bit faster. Landon Roldan, every time I say his name, I say it like extra country. Don't ask me why, but Landon Roldan, when he changed his number to 8, he was looking flashy out there. So something about a number change. I think we need to do a psychological examination of this dude, but I'm pretty sure you get like 10 to 15% better. If you
the science is clear. The
That's how
science
it
is
is
clear.
on my
Slimmer number, you get like a little boost in the 40.
That's what I'm
saying. Immediately.
It worked in the video games, right? Like if you're on like you're doing your my career or something like that, a little from 33 to 3. That's like,
or sometimes it's dread. You remember when Malcolm Mitchell had dreads in the game? That one year, yeah. he was super sick that year, and then cut him off. He was like, he's all right. some crazy stuff, man.
There's power in the dreads, man. You didn't read the Bible?
It is what it is, bro. It is what it is.
Hey, bro.
And then Keegan, Atlanta is 16-8 and was on, I think it was an 8-game winning streak before losing the second game to the Nationals. It's really them and the Dodgers right now leading the way in the NL. Obviously, the Dodgers with that roster is crazy, but you know when you got the Mets in your division, you're going to do pretty well. So shout out to the Braves for starting hot this season.
Well, from what I hear, the Braves are doing good despite being pretty banged up in the pitching rotation. So they got some young guys stepping up. Is that kind of the case?
I believe so.
Somewhat. Yeah. What Braves have like the best record in baseball, I think, something like that. They're 6 up in the division.
I don't know if it's the best record overall, but it's one of the top 3 for sure. It's one of the top 3 for sure.
They've been on a tear. Now I'm a fair weather Braves fan by all means, but like I support the hell out of them. I just want to see some games this year, man. I want to get down there. Tickets are pretty cheap, so
they're not. It's a long season. You can go whenever you want to, man. Especially in the middle of the week. So it's nice to see them going. But obviously, the talk of social media right now has to be the NBA playoffs. And Keegan, your Atlanta Hawks stole one in the Garden to tie the series 1-1 against the New York Knicks. How you feeling?
I feel great. I love it, dude. That's really the thing. When you have a team that really makes a deep run, typically it is because it is comprised of many different players that can step up on any given night. And that's what I've kind of witnessed throughout these years. Now, sometimes, you got like a LeBron James, like back in the day, or a Kobe, or someone who just kind of wills their team, or Kawhi that one year, or Steph some years. Like, there's a lot of willing also, but outside of the teams that are just willed by one player, the championship teams are deep, and they have, someone can have an off night. And for the first 2 games, I was starting to think that Atlanta was having an identity crisis. The first game went okay, but it was a little bit of like the best parts of this team during the season that we were seeing, the way they were winning. It just wasn't there. Jalen Johnson wasn't stepping up. And then fast forward night 2, you got a little bit of the same, and now the Hawks are down 12 points going into the fourth quarter. And then CJ McCollum just steps up, kills it, shows why he's a veteran presence. You had Kuminga have about 20 points off the bench. Big O had some great plays. Nikhil Alexander-Walker had some very clutch defensive plays on Jalen Brunson. So it all kind of came together. And this is all while Jalen Johnson didn't have a bad game, but he's kind of been their best player pretty much the majority of games. If it's probably him that did the best. He hasn't really done like bad, but he's not stepped up quite on that level. So, hey, I have a lot of confidence for the Hawks because they're able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, have McCollum be vintage, and then these other players that can really step up. And I know they're kind of undersized. And you had mentioned coming into this series how it would be what Cat could do. And I do think that's a very true and real take. But the undersized guys they have are quick and they're good defenders. So, and for what you lack in size for someone like Big O had a steal on Cat one play, and then next minute, I think it was game one, turned around and had like a buzzer beater 3-point shot. So they can stretch the floor and do some really cool things. But I think the Hawks are set up well.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I was talking with a buddy of mine, a Hawks fan, a diehard Hawks fan just today, and I was telling him the same thing. I feel like Cat is still the key to this series. Now, if he's going to stand on the perimeter, I think the Hawks can really guard him well. But to score, 9 or 12 points or whatever it was in the fourth quarter, that's probably not going to happen a lot more. I do expect Cat to get pushed down to the post. Maybe they start Mitchell and Cat because the Hawks are not a big team. I mean, the Knicks, yes, the Hawks are not a big team, and I still feel like that is an area that the Knicks can exploit. But Game 3 is going to tell us a lot. And I only say this because the Hawks, this iteration of the Hawks hasn't been in this position a lot. The Knicks have, even though they don't look like a really good team, they do have the capability. So I'm really interested in this series because at this point, I think it's going to be a lot of chess pieces. So Game 3 in Atlanta is going to be huge if you want to take control. And then Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets. So Game 1, KD's out with a bruised knee. You get that win, it's like, okay, no KD, got one down. Right before Game 2, he's announced that he's returning. And KD in the first half comes and does what KD does. 23 points on the night, but only 3 coming in the second half. So far this series, the Rockets have shot 44 more shots than the Lakers and are averaging 96 points. They have yet to score 100 points. LeBron James, it's actually really nice to see because I've been a LeBron James fan for a long time. And you're starting to hear some people start to realize, just to realize the greatness of the guy, right? Whether you like him or not, what he's doing right now without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves in the playoffs, yet again, 28, 8, and 7, leading this team with the help of Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, who, thank you so much, Hawk fans, for taking Gabe Vincent, have been on an absolute tear. JJ Redick deserves a lot of credit for the defense that he is putting on this Rocket team that doesn't have a point guard, which is why I felt like they were slim pickings before the playoffs started. KD is not used to playing out of double teams the same way LeBron is, so he struggles when you add pressure, and this team is just bought in. So the more games they can win, the more time you buy for AR and Luka Doncic, and the more opportunity you have to get healthy. Because if you're not healthy going into OKC, no chance. Even if you are, little chance. But it's nice to watch right now. And the things LeBron's doing at 41 years old are still amazing to me. And I've been an avid fan for a long time. It's nice for the rest of the world to see him do it against KD, no less.
Bronny James coming into his own. And the thing about LeBron being able to have this kind of career, he's the poster child for longevity. The way he's just evolved his game. Now, he's still a physical freak at 41, right? He's definitely got that to his name, but at the same time, he got better at shooting, got better at stretching the floor, got better with his pacing, got better at dribbling. He's gotten better in a way where you just can't take it away from him. So even though he's lost, maybe he doesn't jump quite as high. Maybe he's a step slower. Maybe all these things you could probably write down that are true. He's got better in other ways that are within his control. So that's something that I really think LeBron needs to get credit for. And hey, I'm trying to get in shape as I get older, so I'm taking notes.
His superpower is his IQ. And for those who haven't maybe tapped into the Rockets Lakers, watch how he controls this game with this roster. Now, it's not a terrible roster, but you are without your top 2 scorers, right? To go from the third option to to the number one option and to essentially give you Magic Johnson-esque type of performances, more or less. Yeah. It's amazing to see at 41. He did a reverse windmill last night. What he does is unheard of, and it's amazing to watch. The NBA playoffs as a whole have been excellent. I hope Wemby comes back and he's healthy. OKC gets an opportunity to, I think, have another game tonight. So as the week and weeks go on, we will learn a lot more about these teams, and I'm very excited, man. Can't lie to you.
For those that keep up, WrestleMania just went down. It was a blast, and the big highlight from that, the big news out of that was that Brock Lesnar impromptu, unexpectedly retired. Some say that it wasn't scripted. I'm kind of hoping, since Gunther keeps retiring our favorite wrestlers, since he needs a favor from Hall Heyman, the favor will be that he wanted to retire Brock Lesnar, and then Brock Lesnar actually comes back for one last match against Gunther, and then maybe he beats Gunther. That's what I'm hoping for, but otherwise Brock Lesnar's done. So if that's a wrap, shout out to you, Brock Lesnar, for F5s on the trampoline growing up. Childhood would not have been the same without you. And honestly, crazy thing about Brock Lesnar, dude, for all the people that get a lot of fair recognition for being professional two-sport athletes, Brock Lesnar is a 3, damn near 4 professional sport athlete. He had, I don't know, maybe the NCAAs, he was amateur, but he was a national champion wrestler. He played for the Minnesota Vikings, and he was a world champion UFC heavyweight. He was a UFC heavyweight champion on top of all that, and, did the WWE. So, but yeah, that was what was going on in my world this weekend. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I saw that, and I did not know he was involved in so many things. And that is a true athlete, regardless of how you may feel about these different sports. That's true athleticism. So I think everybody loves Brock Lesnar for the most part. Shout out to Brock Lesnar. He's one of the few people in that space that I do know. So it's nice to see him go out on his own terms. And Keegan, as dog fans, it is nice for us to end the podcast on our own terms, and that is with a Georgia win, because G-Day is done. Dog Nation, we appreciate you tapping in with us. Make sure that you check us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure you catch the NFL draft and tap in with us when we react to said draft. And as always, guys, you know what it is.
Off the leash.
Off the leash.
First win of the season, baby.
I do it for the dogs.